Kids, gather around here for a minute. Sit down, make yourselves comfortable. That's it. Now listen up, because today I'm going to tell you a story so incredible that your jaws will drop when you hear it. This story has massive empires, great wars, wise kings, and destructions. And the most interesting part is this. This story began thousands of years ago, but it's still going on today. Let me ask you a question first. Have you ever heard of a place called Persia? You haven't? Well, that's normal. Have you heard of Iran then? Yes, you know that one. Well, kids, that Persia and this Iran are the same place. Same lands, same people, same culture, only the name changed. But why did it change? That's what I'm going to tell you today. And I promise, when you reach the end of this story, you're going to say, "Wow." Ready? Then open your eyes wide and listen to me carefully, because this isn't just a story about a name change. This is the story of how power, religion, and the question people ask themselves, "Who are we?" can change the destiny of an entire civilization. Kids, now picture a geography in your mind. In front of you, there are huge mountains reaching up to the sky, snow-covered, mountains that make you feel tiny. To your left and right, there are scorching deserts where the sun burns down from directly above, where even taking a step becomes a struggle. And right in the middle of these mountains and deserts, an ancient road stretches out. The caravans passing along this road aren't just carrying silk, spices, or gold. Along that road walk identities, powers travel, and legacies change hands. This place is the Iranian Plateau, the cradle of civilizations, the stage of tens of thousands of years of history. To the east, the Indian subcontinent. To the west, the Mesopotamian plains where rivers rush. To the north, the Caspian Sea. To the south, the Gulf. Anyone sitting in such a strategic place was naturally bound to be the center of attention throughout history. And in the second millennium BC, a very special people arrived there. We call them the Indo-Iranians. They came on horseback from the vast steppes of Central Asia. The language they spoke is very interesting, kids. It belongs to the Indo-European language family. What does that mean? It means they came from the same root as the ancestors of the Romans, who would later speak Latin, the Greeks, who would speak Greek, the Iberian peoples, who would speak Spanish. In Old Persian, madar means mother. Ped means father. In Latin, mater means mother. Pater means father. Did you feel the kinship? That's why, kids, contrary to what many people believe today, the Iranian people are not of Arab origin. Their roots come from a completely different, much older source. Two communities stood out among these Indo-Iranians. The first were the Medes, who settled in the northwest of present-day Iran and established a very powerful structure. The second were the Persians, who settled further south in a region called Pars. And the name Persia comes from right there, from Pars. In those days, the Persians were not very powerful. The real great power was the Medes. The Persians were a relatively small community living in their shadow. But kids, this is the most exciting thing in history. Sometimes from within a community that looks small and is overlooked, there emerges a person who changes everything. And from among the Persians, exactly such a person emerged. His name was Korash. The world came to know him as Cyrus the Great, and with him, everything was turned upside down. Let me tell you how. Before Alexander the Great, before Napoleon, before Genghis Khan, there was a man who conquered the world but did it differently from everyone else. Cyrus the Great. Kids, do you know how empires were governed in those days? With the sword, with fire, with fear. You would conquer a city, burn it, destroy it, exile people. You would enslave them. You would tear down their temples. By doing this, people would fear you and obey. But at the same time, they would constantly rebel. Do you think this method was right? Please write it in the comments. Cyrus tried the opposite. After defeating the Medes, do you know what he did? He didn't crush them. He gave them positions. He incorporated them into his empire. Then he took Babylon. He told the people of Babylon, Marduk wanted to save you through my hands. Marduk was their god, and the Babylonians welcomed him not as an invader, but as a savior sent from heaven. They loved him dearly. Look at the Jews, too. In those days, a large part of the Jewish people were being held captive in Babylon, exiled by force.
As soon as Cyrus took Babylon, he issued this decree: the Jews are free. Those who wish to return to Jerusalem may do so. Let them rebuild their temple. And he even set aside money from the treasury for this construction. Think about it, kids. This man is living in the 5th century BC, and he's developing a way of governing that we could call human rights. Under Cyrus and Darius I, who ascended the throne after him, the Achaemenid Empire reached a colossal size. From the shores of the Aegean in the west to the Indus River in the east, from Egypt to Central Asia. Within this empire, dozens of different languages, dozens of different religions, dozens of different cultures live side by side. And what made this possible was not the sword, but intelligence. Historians without hesitation describe this empire as the world's first superpower. And I agree with that.
Uncle, I want to ask something. If Cyrus was such a good person, why didn't other kings do the same? Why did everyone rule with fear?
Well done. That's a very good question. Look, throughout history, people always choose the easy way. Fear is the easy way. The sword is the easy way. It gives immediate results. But respect? Understanding? That's the long way. It takes effort, patience, and intelligence. Cyrus was smart enough to choose this long way and had enough patience for it. But to be able to do this, being well-intentioned alone is not enough. You have to be a very good observer of people. Cyrus understood people. He knew what they feared, what they valued, which symbols were important to them. And he used this knowledge wisely. Other kings either didn't know this or didn't care. Great leaders are rare in history, kids, because there is no easy way to do this work. Kids, every good thing comes to an end. The Achaemenid Empire stood for centuries, but in the end, it too received a great blow. And this blow came from a very unexpected place, from a very young man. You all know this man. Who is he? Let me tell you. In 334 BC, an army set out from northern Greece, from Macedonia. At its head was a young king who had not yet turned 30, Alexander. History called him Alexander the Great. His army was small compared to the Persian army, but it was incredibly disciplined, and its commander was a military genius. He fought at Granicus. He won. He fought at Issus. He won. He fought at Gaugamela. He won. The Persian emperor Darius III fled, and the empire collapsed. The great Achaemenid Empire, that magnificent structure that had ruled half the world for generations, fell to its knees before a young man. But kids, now the truly surprising part comes. What do you expect? Did Alexander the Great destroy the empire? Did he erase Persia from the map? No, he did the exact opposite. He entered the magnificent palaces of Persepolis and was amazed. He married Persian princesses. He wore Eastern clothes. He participated in Zoroastrian ceremonies. He declared himself the continuation of the Achaemenid kings. He integrated the Persian bureaucracy into his own administration. In other words, this man didn't just become Persian, but he did everything the Persians did. His Macedonian generals went crazy, of course. "We followed you to destroy Persia. Have you now become Persian?" they said. Conspiracies were formed. Assassination attempts were made. But Alexander was pursuing a great vision, a universal civilization where East and West merged. This vision was perhaps one of the greatest dreams in history. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to live out this dream. In 323 BC, in Babylon, he died at the age of 32. Whether from illness, poisoning, or exhaustion, it's still debated. His entertainment was divided among his generals. The old Persian lands came under the control of a general named Seleucus. Alexander was gone. But the idea of Persia, the spirit of Persia, lived on. Kids, history sometimes moves forward, sometimes backward, sometimes it goes around and comes back to the beginning. After Alexander, the Seleucids came. Then the Parthians came. Different dynasties came and words. But each time, the Persian spirit somehow remained standing. And finally, in the 3rd century AD, from the Fars region where you were cross behind, a new dynasty emerged. Which dynasty do you think it was? The Sassanids saw themselves as the descendants of Cyrus the Great, of Darius. "We will rebuild that great empire," they said, and they really tried. They ruled for more than 400 years. They constantly clashed with the Roman Empire. Sometimes they won, sometimes they lost. But they were not destroyed, they working. During the Sassanid period, Zoroastrianism regained strength. Kids, do you know what Zoroastrianism is? Zoroastrianism is a very ancient religion, perhaps one of the oldest monotheistic religions in the world. Its founder is the prophet Zoroaster. The essence of this leaders is good thought, good word, good deed. The words is a great battleground between good and evil, and humans are obliged to choose a side in this words. Fire is a very sacred symbol in this religion. During the Sassanid period, fire temples rose everywhere. But in the 7th century, things decisions. Islam, emerging from the emerging payment, spread at an incredible speed. Arabids in 2 great battles, and the Persian Empire was destroyed. A new language came, Arabic. A new faith came, Islam. A new political order came, the Caliphate. Zoroastrianism was pushed to the background. Persian absorbed words and structures from Arabic and changed. But the Persian spirit did not disappear, kids. It continued to live in poetry, in art, in Scott. And the Persians embraced Islam, but sacred it with your young stamp. During the Abbasid period, Persian intellectuals, Persian viziers, Persian scientists played the decisive role in the Biktri's court. Persian became a prestigious language at court. Firdausi, Omar Khayyam, Hafez, Rumi, all of these great names are the common products of both Persian and Islamic civilization.
Uncle, I want to ask something. After the Persians accepted Islam, why didn't they become Arab? If the religion is the same, why did they remain different?
You have to be smart to ask that question. Well done. Listen, kids. Religion is part of an identity, but not the only part. The Persians accepted Islam, yes, but with them they carried thousands of years of language, a tradition of poetry, an understanding of architecture, a musical culture, a history. These things don't change overnight. Religion can change, but the roots of culture go very deep. Moreover, Persian is a very different language from Arabic. Speaking the same language is the most fundamental building block of a shared identity. The Persians preserved their own language. They continued to write their own poetry. They produced their own art. And because of this, they were able to say, "I am Muslim, but I am also Iranian." These two identities didn't exclude each other for them. On the contrary, they complemented each other. It's still the same today. Kids, centuries passed after the arrival of Islam. During these centuries, the region passed through the hands of Turkish, Mongol, and various dynasties. The Seljuks came, the Mongols of Genghis Khan came, Tamerlane came. Each one left behind a destruction, but Persian culture picked itself up each time. And it was in the middle of this exhaustion and fragmentation in the 16th century that a new dynasty took the stage, the Safavids. The Safavids were not an ordinary dynasty. They had religious authority in their hands. In Ardabil, in northwest Iran, they led a religious order with a large following. And when the young Shah Ismail ascended the throne in 1501, he declared, "The official religion in these lands will be Twelver Shia Islam." Kids, to understand how earth-shattering this decision was, you need to know this. Up until that day, the vast majority of Muslims in these lands were Sunni. The Ottoman Empire was also Sunni. Shah Ismail's decision became the fundamental decision that set Iran apart from the rest of the Islamic world. This transition was not easy. It was forcibly imposed, met with resistance, and took years. But the Safavids didn't give up. And in the end, Iran became both a part of the Islamic world and a completely different voice within it. This distinction was not only religious, it was a political message. We are not the Ottomans. We are different. We are independent. The Safavids also made great investments in culture and art. Isfahan became the capital and still stands today as one of the most beautiful historic cities in the world. Architecture, miniature art, carpet weaving, poetry, philosophy, all experienced a new golden age during the Safavid period. And it was during this period that the name Iram began to emerge more strongly, because now these lands had their own unique and clear identity. But they were still known to the world as Persia. Those looking from the outside said Persia. Those looking from the inside said Iram. This duality waited a few more centuries for its full resolution. Kids, in the 18th century, the Safavids collapsed. Then came the Qajar dynasty. During this period, Iran was forced to face very powerful European states. Britain and Russia were putting pressure on Iran. There was oil beneath the lands, and everyone had their eye on it. Iran lost wars, lost territory, wounded its dignity. It was a very difficult period. Iran was struggling to even breathe during this period, and a powerful man emerged who was nourished by the pain of this era. Reza Shah. He was a soldier, determined, and wanted to modernize. In 1925, he deposed the last Qajar ruler and ascended the throne. He gave himself a name, Reza Shah Pahlavi, and he set out to transform Iran. Universities, railroads, a modern army, secular courts, and many more revolutions. And in 1935, he did this. He sent a diplomatic note to all foreign embassies. The content of the note was, "From now on, call our country Iran, not Persia. Iram is the name of our country in our own language." Why? Kids, the name Persia carried certain connotations in Europe: exotic, distant, somewhat backward. Orientalist painters and writers had always imagined Persia this way: magical but disorderly, rich but lazy. Reza Shah wanted to break this image. With the name Iran, the country would be recognized as a modern and sovereign state. For centuries, this land had already been called Iran internally. Now it would be said the same way outside, too. But not everyone embraced this decision. Many intellectuals and citizens inside Iran opposed this change. For them, Persia represented thousands of years of heritage: Cyrus, Darius, Persepolis, the greatness of a great empire. Abandoning that name felt like abandoning that legacy. But the decision didn't change. The world would now call this land Iran.
Uncle, there's something I don't understand. They were already calling it Iran among themselves, right? So why was this decision such a big deal? What actually changed?
You're right. They were already calling it Iran internally. So why was this decision such a big deal? Think about this. If someone constantly calls you by the wrong name and you don't say anything, what happens? Over time, that wrong name becomes established as if it were real. The world knows you by that name. Your own real name loses its importance. Reza Shah broke that. Sending a note to the embassies meant, "I am here. I know my own name, and you will call me by the name I have chosen." It was a declaration of sovereignty, a step that looks small
but is actually very big. Because defining your identity also determines how others will see you. After Reza Shah, his son Mohammad Reza Shah ascended the throne. He continued on the path of modernization. He built close relations with America. Oil revenues fed the country. But at the same time, he suppressed the opposition harshly. The secret police were everywhere. People lived in fear. An anger was building up within society. There were secular intellectuals in the opposition. There were leftists. There were religious groups. They all wanted different things, but they were all against the Shah. And a name emerged that brought these different groups together: Ayatollah Khomeini. He had lived in exile for years, but his voice was reaching Iran. In February 1979, the Shah left the country. Khomeini returned from exile. The Islamic Republic of Iran was declared. This was not just a change of government, kids. It was a transformation. A shift from Western-oriented secular modernization to an Islam-centered system. This revolution shook the world. It shook America because its close ally, the Shah, was gone. It shook the Arab countries because they feared the spread of a Shia revolution. It shook Iraq, and in 1980, the Iran-Iraq War began, lasting 8 years. Hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. It was a tremendous destruction. Today, Iran is associated in many people's minds with concepts like geopolitical tensions, sanctions, and conflict. Meanwhile, Persia, ironically, has begun to carry a nostalgic meaning associated with lost grandeur and refined culture, as if Persia represents the beautiful past and Iran represents the difficult present. But both are the same land, the same people, the same culture. Just different periods, different faces.
Uncle, so how do Iranians feel about themselves today? Are they Persian or Iranian?
Iranians today carry both. They feel like the heirs of both the Persians and modern Iran. But they experience this in different ways. For some, the pre-Islamic Persian heritage is very important: Cyrus, Persepolis, Zoroastrianism. For others, Islamic identity is defining. And this distinction sometimes carries a political meaning too. For example, many Iranians living abroad prefer to introduce themselves as Persian, because when you say Iran, people think of the current regime. But when you say Persian, people think of ancient culture. Two names, different associations. But both are the same person's story. Never forget that identity can be this layered, kids. Kids, today we took a very long journey. We came from the 2nd millennium BC all the way to today. We saw empires, we saw conquests, religions changed, names changed. But one thing never changed. That land always stood there. Those people always told their own story. Changing the name of a country seems like a small thing. But we saw today that this decision was actually the symbolic peak of thousands of years of identity struggle. Should we say Persia or Iran? Which is more correct? Both are correct, kids, because both are real. Persia tells the story of that land's glorious past. Iran tells its present.
And both are necessary, because without both, the story is incomplete. Let me tell you one more thing. Cyrus the Great in the 5th century BC made respect for differences the foundation of an empire. Alexander dreamed that East and West could merge. The Sassanids kept the ancient culture alive. Islam added a new dimension. The Safavids built a unique identity. Reza Shah wanted to make that identity known to the world. And today, Iran is within that long journey. Not the last stop, because history never ends. History does not live in the pages of textbooks. It lives in the memory of living people. And you are also a part of this great story. Don't forget what you learned today, because this is not about learning a name. This is about understanding a civilization. This is about seeing the silent war behind two names. Kids, what I told you today may have seemed a bit long. Some parts may have seemed complicated. But know this. The people who lived thousands of years ago also wondered like you, asked questions like you, tried to understand like you. Cyrus was once a child too. So was Alexander. And when they grew up, they changed the world. You will grow up too. And who knows, maybe one day your name will also be written on a page of history. So never stop being curious. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And don't forget what you've learned. Now go, play, laugh. But keep this story in a corner of your mind, because history is not a dead thing sleeping in books. History is a living voice inside you. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe right now and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next one. And I'm curious, which do you think was the most interesting civilization in history? Write it down below. I'll read it, and maybe I'll choose the next story just for you. Off you go now. Goodbye, kids.